Hello everyone, peace be upon you. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and stay with me until the end of the story. Also, leave a comment telling me which city and country you're watching from. I'd love to see how far my story has reached. For those of you who have already subscribed, I sincerely wish you good health, ease in all your affairs, abundant blessings, and may all your hopes and dreams come true. Amen. Now, let's begin the story. The Nevada morning was clear and dry, the kind of air that makes every sound crisp. Captain Alexandra Pierce, Alex to everyone who had flown with her, walked the length of her F-16 on the Nellis flight line, palms skimming along the leading edge as she counted fasteners by habit. She didn't talk much before a sortie. She listened, to the subtle hiss of ground power, to the murmur of the crew chief, to the quiet clicks from the avionics bay that told her the jet was waking up the way it should. Routine mattered. Routine kept people alive. Noah Reynolds jogged up with his helmet tucked under one arm, visor reflecting the pale sun. Pre-flight complete, Alex. Fuel checks good, INS aligned, data card loaded. He sounded steady. He always did around her. Copy, she said, eyes on the tire chocks. We'll keep it clean and simple. Northern sector, standard racetrack, eyes out for traffic and weather. Nothing fancy. She meant it. Nothing fancy was the goal. Across the ramp, two F-22s sat under the same light, crew ladders still in place. She recognized the tail codes and knew the pilots by reputation, Major Rebecca Nolan and Captain Ethan Price. They'd be airborne later for a separate training window. Good sticks, both of them. If something ever went sideways in this airspace, they were the kind of people you wanted nearby. The crew chief gave her a thumbs up. Alex climbed the ladder, settled into the seat, and ran her checks without wasted motion. Oxygen on, comms check, flight control bit, engine start. The intake gulped air and the engine came alive with a smooth, even build that she could read like a sentence. She strapped in, set radios, and glanced once at the photo tucked near the glare shield, her own ritual reminder that focus was not just professional, it was personal. Ground clearance passed them to tower. Taxi was uneventful. On the runway, she pushed the throttle forward, felt the jet lean into its power, and let the desert fall away beneath the nose. Clean liftoff. Gear up. Flaps up. Climb power set. The city slid behind them and the brown expanse of black rock country opened ahead, flat and honest about what it was. At altitude, the air smoothed out. Alex set the first leg of the pattern and scanned. Horizon line steady. Contrails far to the west. A thin build of cumulus over the distant hills, nothing promising trouble. She checked fuel flow, cross-checked the engine instruments, and kept her scan moving. Noah read back the fence-in items and settled into the rhythm beside her. A good wingman lowers the noise in your head. He did. Below and far to the southeast, a commercial route cut across the sector. She saw the faint shape of a jetliner tracking northbound, a polite blip on her scope and nothing else. Las Vegas Control Center worked those flights day and night. On her second radio, she could hear the calm cadence of traffic calls, the kind of background sound that makes the sky feel organized. She recognized the voice on the sector, Megan Turner. Professional, measured, even when the frequency stacked up. Colonel Michael Donovan checked in from the ops desk at Nellis, just a quick touch to confirm their time on station and any NOTAM changes. Nothing significant. Alex acknowledged and returned to her scan. She kept one eye on the winds aloft. There was a hint of a shift from the northwest, shallow and inconsistent, but worth noting. Little details had a way of becoming big ones without warning. They flew the pattern. On each turn, Alex looked long across the desert, the dry lakebed like a plate, the ridges like knuckles, the empty roads arrowing nowhere in particular. She didn't assign meaning to it. She just filed the picture in her head. If she ever had to put metal on ground out here, she wanted to already know where the ground was friendly and where it would bite. On the fourth leg, Noah broke the quiet. You ever get the feeling the air is different, but you can't sell it on instruments? Sometimes, Alex said. That's why we keep our scan honest. He let that sit. They both knew instinct has value, but instinct isn't a plan. Instinct is a nudge that says check again. Far to the north, the Raptor pair lifted off, climbed fast, and leveled somewhere above their altitude block. Becky Nolan's voice on tactical was clipped and clean, the sound of training lines being flown precisely. Alex logged the picture, 2 more sets of eyes in the sky. She didn't expect to need them. She didn't expect anything except to brief, fly, and debrief. The minutes stacked up, the way they do on a routine sortie. Fuel burned on schedule. Temperatures stayed in the green. The scope stayed quiet. Alex reviewed contingencies anyway, divert fields, lost comm procedures, a mental checklist of, if-then, trees she'd built over years of flying. It wasn't fear. It was discipline. In the cabin of that northbound airliner, Flight 209, according to the tag on her display, passengers were pouring coffee and adjusting headphones, unaware that anyone was watching their tiny symbol move across a controller's scope. On Megan's frequency, routine handoffs continued. No urgency, no strain, just the cadence of a normal morning over Nevada. Alex rolled wings level again, lined up the next leg, and listened harder. The wind line over the surface looked a touch different, darker in places where dust lifted in thin sheets. She marked it. She noted the temperature rise. Small things. She had learned to respect small things. Noah checked their next waypoint. We'll hit Joker in 26, he said. Plenty of margin. Copy. Keep it smooth. The jet held steady. The day held steady. The radio held steady, until it didn't. A brief overlap on Megan's frequency, just a smear of stepped-on audio, then silence again. Alex flicked her eyes to the altimeter, then back outside. The horizon was still the horizon. She didn't feel tension, exactly, more a change in the floor under the moment, like the room had shifted by a degree you could only detect if you'd been standing there a long time. She let a full breath in and out, tightened the loop on her scan, and kept flying. Routine, after all, is what keeps people alive, right up to the second it becomes the thing you have to break. The stepped-on audio returned, sharper this time, the edge of panic riding on static. Mayday, mayday, Flight 209er, dual engine failure, we're losing altitude, the words clipped out, rushed, swallowed by noise. Alex didn't wait. She rolled a degree left to open her scan and keyed up Megan's frequency. Las Vegas Center, Falcon 1-1. I've got the mayday on guard in sector. Confirm call sign and position. Falcon 1-1, this is Vegas Center, Megan answered, voice steady but fast. Mayday is Flight 209er, northbound at 27,000, position 10 northeast of Black Rock. Both engines reported out. They're descending through 24. Copy. Put me on with them. There was a beat, then a new voice broke in, tight and breathless. Falcon, this is Flight 209er, Captain Brooks. We have severe vibrations, both engines spooled down, we cannot hold altitude. We need vectors to the nearest field. Alex kept her tone flat, deliberate. Flight 209er, Falcon. I'm on your left quarter at higher altitude. Turn heading 085. Keep wings level. Trim out any roll. What's your indicated airspeed and cabin status? Speed 220 and bleeding. Cabin pressure low, masks deployed, a second voice said, Lauren, by cadence and pitch. Multiple warnings. We're trying for a restart. Understood. Don't chase every light. Fly the jet. Noah, mark their drift. She glanced right. He was already building a quick and dirty glide picture on his knee board, lips silent, pen moving. Alex switched radios. Nellis Ops, Falcon. Colonel Donovan, requesting authority to assume on-scene coordination with civilian traffic for emergency glide. Will extend station past Joker. Donovan came back immediately. Falcon, approved. Becky and Ethan are airborne. They'll push to you. We're clearing the block. Copy. She slid back to Megan. Center, I'll take visual lead. Push all traffic out of the corridor, 50 miles either side. Confirm winds aloft. Winds 310 at 25, gusting. Corridor clear. Your primary. Alex eased throttle to hold her energy and dropped 100 feet to make herself big in the airliner's window. Brooks, Lauren, eyes outside on me. Don't fixate on me, scan, but use me as your reference. Maintain 2 degrees nose up, stop the sink from running away. You have a shallow tailwind, we'll use it, then turn to put it on the nose for final. A thin smear of smoke trailed from the airliner's left nacelle. Not flame, but not nothing. She logged it. Becky, Ethan, she called on tack, set up offset on their wingtips, 10 meters outside visual. Your markers only. No abrupt moves. Copy, Falcon, Becky said, already sliding into position with a precise, surgeon's touch. Ethan took the far side, steady and smooth. Inside Flight 209, the picture formed whether the passengers knew it or not, 1 Falcon leading, 2 Raptors guarding. In the cabin, Sarah Coleman moved like she'd trained 100 times, masks checked, voices calm, hands demonstrating brace positions as turbulence nipped at the aisles. Jacob Miller stared across the row at a sweating window, then up the center aisle where fear was an animal made of whispers and fast breathing. Brooks, Alex said, confirm weight and fuel. Fuel low, weight near landing minimums after burn, but we're heavy for an emergency strip, he admitted, voice scraping the edge. That's fine. We'll plan long and shallow. Next, heading 085 now. Avoid the ridge line ahead. Don't let the nose hunt, small inputs. Noah held up 2 fingers and tapped the map. Coyote Ridge strip at your 12+. It's rough, short, but it's a field. Glide ring says doable if they keep the rate below 800 per minute. Alex processed it in a blink. Center, Falcon. We're committing to Coyote Ridge emergency strip. Notify local responders, surface condition unknown. We'll need trucks and medical staging. Affirmative, Falcon. Units en route. 209er, listen to me, Alex said, voice dropping a half step, calm threading through the cockpit speakers. We have a strip in the desert. It will not be pretty, but it's there. You're going to fly the airplane, nothing more. Lauren, call out rates. Brooks, hold discipline. We'll do this 1 line at a time. The airliner twitched, left wing wanting to sag. Counter with rudder, not your hands, Alex coached. There you go. Let the airplane breathe. Don't fight every burble. On tack, Becky whispered, crosswind building. Surface dust showing streaks from 310. Seen, Alex said. We'll turn early to align and eat the crosswind on the nose last minute. She keyed to 209er. When I say, you'll take a 20-degree left to set your gate. Not yet. Noah murmured numbers, altitudes, descent rates, the thin math between sky and ground. Alex kept her voice level, not selling confidence she didn't own, just lending the crew enough of hers to borrow. Lauren, give me vertical speed. 750 down, trending 8. Bring it back to 6. Don't dive for the ground you already own, Alex said. Becky, call any drift. Minimal now, but gusts rolling at low level, Becky replied. Megan was a constant in the background, clearing corridors, coordinating emergency frequencies, her cadence shaping a bubble around the whole messy moment. Donovan pushed updates, rescue on the move, weather holding, satellite track confirmed. 209er, left turn now. 20 degrees. Roll out on 065, Alex said. The wide body eased through the turn, slow and deliberate, the kind of move that feels like turning a building with fingertips. Good. Hold it. Lauren, what's your speed? 205. We're getting shallow buffet. Add a breath of nose-up trim, then hands off for 2 seconds. Let it settle. Now hands on. That's the picture. The desert rose in the windscreen, the strip still a rumor of concrete scratched into sand. Alex pictured the last mile, the flare, the room they didn't have, the gust she hated. She didn't give that picture to Brooks. She gave him the next 10 seconds. You're going to make it, she said, simple and unadorned. Stay with me. The word steadied the cockpit like a hand on the shoulder. Brooks breathed once, long and even. Lauren read numbers she could trust. Vertical 600 down. Speed 200. Trim stable. Alex held her position just forward left of the nose so the crew could use her jet like a ruler in the sky. Good picture. Keep it there. Do not chase small bumps. If it moves, let it settle before you touch it. Becky's voice came over tack, low and calm. Surface shows streaky dust. Gusts rolling 25, variable. Local shear within 500 feet AGL. Ethan added, I'll watch the right side for terrain and traffic, nothing on scope. Copy, Alex said. 209er, note crosswind from 310. We'll square it up late. Lauren, keep calling trend. Lauren answered without drama. 200 knots. 650 down. Slight left wing heaviness. Alex didn't look away from the nose line. Brooks, don't fight that with aileron. Feed rudder first, then trim. You'll stop the skid without loading the wing. In the cabin, Sarah Coleman moved seat to seat, voice even, mask straps tight, hands sure. Heads down, stay buckled, listen for my call, she said, repeating the steps like rails to hold on to. Jacob Miller watched her pass and copied her breathing, slower than his wanted to be. The aisle lights flickered once with a power shift, then steadied. The sound of the wind over the fuselage had changed, it was louder now, more honest about how fast metal was moving through air. Vegas Center, Alex called, confirmed Coyote Ridge trucks on scene. Megan replied, units arriving now. Strip notamed rough but clear. Wind on surface 310 at 20, gusts to 28. Donovan pushed in on ops, you're clear to run this as you see it. We've got the airspace locked. Anything you need. Alex gave a short, Roger. 209er, start setting for a power-off profile. Flaps 5, hold your speed above 190. Don't let it sink below 180 until I call it. Lauren's hands moved, voice steady. Flaps 5 selected. The airplane burbled and then smoothed. Brooks kept the yoke still and worked trim in small moves. The nose settled where Alex wanted it. Noah tapped his board. Gate 1, 7 miles, 2000 AGL, 190 knots. Gate 2, 3.5, 1000 AGL, 185. Short final, 600 AGL, 175, flare as called. Alex absorbed the gates. Brooks, listen up. You don't need the whole plan. You need the next block. Aim for the 7-mile gate. If you're high, don't push. If you're low, don't yank. We'll get it back. Becky, Falcon, left drift building. Alex saw it too. 209er, add a touch of right rudder, take out the crab late. Not now. Lauren, trend holding. 200 knots. 600 down. Alex, good. Keep the sink at or below 7. If it spikes, breathe and nudge. No big moves. The strip resolved from rumor to a hard, pale line scratched into brown earth. It looked short because it was. Alex refused to narrate that truth. Visual acquired, she said instead. You're lined up for the initial. Prepare to turn 10 left on my call. A bump hit, not big but wide, like a hand under the left wing. The nose wanted to wander. Brooks didn't grab at it. He let it settle and trimmed. Alex allowed herself one quick nod he couldn't see. That's it. Discipline wins. On tack, Ethan said, small terrain-induced rotor at 1000 AGL near the approach end. Watch for a quick roll cue. Alex logged it. 209er, expect a nudge low and right then a correction. Don't follow it all the way. Stop half. Copy, Brooks said, voice lower now, controlled. Lauren filled the spaces with facts. 2 miles to gate 1. Altitude 2300 AGL above target, reducing. Alex adjusted her own path, dipped the nose a hair so her jet stayed where their eyes needed it. Flaps 10, she called. Lauren echoed, flaps 10 set. The airframe took on more drag, speed ticked down to 190. Hold it. Do not let it bleed further. Below, emergency lights winked at the far end of the strip. Dust tails chased along the margins. The sun punched through a high gap and laid a pale glare across the approach path. Alex shifted her jet to shade the worst of it in Brooks's sightline. Use me to block glare. Scan around me, don't stare. The rotor arrived like Ethan promised, a small, mean curl that tried to pull the nose off centerline. Lauren called it. Right roll starting. Catch with rudder, right rudder, stop at half. Wings back to level. Good, Alex said, her voice even, the cadence metronome steady. The correction held. The sync ticked up to 750, then backed off to 650. Gate 1 passed, Noah reported. You're good on energy if you hold this. Next gate 3.5. Alex, 209er, flaps 15. Keep speed 185. Don't trim nose up into a balloon. Lauren, flaps 15 set. Speed 186. Brooks, picture holding. Alex, yes. Now left 10 degrees, now, roll out on 055. The big jet eased through the turn like a patient ship. The strip centered more honestly in the window. In back, Sarah braced near row 20, eyes on hands, not faces. On my count later, heads down. Not yet, she told a frightened mother, then tucked a blanket tighter around a kid's shoulders. Jacob kept his jaw clenched to stop it from shaking. He focused on the flight attendant's voice and realized it sounded exactly like the pilot's voice on the radio, calm, spare, no wasted words. Crosswind increasing, Becky said. Surface gust just hit 28. Alex responded, copy. 209er, you will not solve crosswind now. Fly centerline first. We'll take out drift inside a mile. Megan updated winds, professional and precise, each call a guardrail. Passing 4000 AGL, Lauren said. Correction, 1100 AGL. 3 miles to gate 2. Alex heard the near miss of a misread and ignored it. Stress does strange things to numbers. The important thing was the corrected call. You're fine. Keep the sync controlled. Flaps 20. Flaps 20, Lauren confirmed. The nose wanted to lift, Brooks resisted with a light forward push and a trim click. Speed held at 182. At 2 miles, the strip looked closer than it should. That was the trick of the desert, no trees to measure, no buildings to scale. Alex refused that illusion entry. Aim point is the numbers plus 1/3. Do not chase the threshold. If you float, you eat runway you don't have. Noah tapped twice. Energy good. If they don't let speed sag, they own the next gate. Alex, 209er, check speed. Lauren, 179. Hold 178 to 180. Do not go under. If the shaker talks, you add a breath of pitch down, not up. Then recapture. The cabin jostled again. A bag clipped a shoulder, someone cried out, then went quiet at Sarah's touch. She moved like she'd practiced for years to be needed for this 1 hour. Jacob closed his eyes for 3 seconds and opened them again because he wanted to see the ground when it arrived. Gate 2, Noah said. On profile. Alex gave them the next slice. Gear down, now. The drag change yanked at the picture. Speed tried to fall out from under them. Hold pitch. Don't chase the sag. Trim. Good. Back to 178. Lauren called it like a drum beat. 178. Sink 700. Centerline near. Becky, little left drift. Nothing ugly. Alex, last correction outside the fence. 209er, you'll carry a whisper of crab then kick straight in the flare. Listen for my call. The strip filled the glass. The shoulders fell away into scrub and rock. Dust devils spun lazy just beyond the overrun. Alex tasted the dry heat through the mask and kept her voice flat. Short final in 60 seconds. Keep the glide. Do not add lift you can't pay for. You're going to see ground movement that looks faster than you like. Ignore it. Fly the numbers. Speed 176, Lauren said. Bring it back 2 knots. Tiny touch. Hold. The jet complied like it wanted to be flown well. The crosswind pressed harder now, honest about what it would be all the way to the concrete. Alex slid a hair lower and a touch right so her jet stayed in the crew's eye exactly where their hands needed it. Final checks complete, Noah said, barely above a whisper. 209er, Alex said, giving them only what fit in the next breath, you're stable. Keep your hands light. We're taking the wind head-on at the end. When I say kick, you kick. When I say flare, you flare. Nothing heroic. Clean. Simple. Together. Alex let the word anchor the cockpit and took the last sliver of guesswork out of the picture. 209er, hold this line. Winds 310, gust 28. You're going to feel a push from the left at 200 AGL. Expect it. Don't overcorrect. Lauren counted them down, voice clipped but steady. Altitude 800, 750, 700. Becky called the surface. Dust flag just flipped, gust front in 10 seconds. Ethan, quiet and exact, no traffic. Terrain clear. Brooks, eyes up, Alex said. Centerline is truth. Numbers plus 1/3 is your aim. Do not stare at me. Use me. The airplane sagged a hair. Tiny pitch. Stop. The sink settled. Speed ticked back to 178 like it belonged there. Good. That's the pocket. The push hit at 600 AGL, earlier than she liked, a fat shoulder of air sliding under the left wing. The nose twitched right. Lauren called it. Right drift starting. Alex didn't raise her voice. Left rudder, half. Hold. Stop there. Brooks fed the pedal in measured pressure. The jet answered. Centerline walked back under them. Gear 3 green, Lauren confirmed. Flaps 20, set. The runway filled the windscreen now, its edges sun-bleached and thin, the overrun a blur of rock and scrub. Alex slid a foot lower, right where their eyes needed a fixed, honest thing. 209er, last gate. Speed 176 to 178. Don't let it droop. Speed 177, Lauren said. Sink 650. Perfect, Alex said. Hold. Nothing fancy. 50 seconds to threshold, the gust front arrived proper, a dirty, rolling shove that tried to peel the nose off track and pitch the right wing down. Ethan's call was a beat behind the feel, rotor. Alex was already there. Catch it, right rudder, stop at half, a breath of left aileron and back to neutral. Don't ride it. Let it pass. Brooks did exactly that. The airplane snapped toward trouble and then, as quickly, was back in slot. The sink spiked to 850. Stop it, Alex said, quiet iron. Tiny nose up. There. 650. Don't give it back. In the cabin, Sarah planted her feet and braced, one hand on a seat back, the other signaling down the aisle. Heads down on my count. Stay buckled. Jacob fixed on her hand and waited for the count like it was the only number that mattered. Alex checked the wind line over the dirt, streamers, dust, the lean of brush, then made the call she had carried for the last mile. 209er, you own the runway if you don't waste it. We're kicking straight late. Do not kick early. Copy, Brooks said, breath even. Lauren tightened the loop. 300 AGL. Speed 176. Becky, left drift a hair, manageable. Alex, hold the crab. Don't fix it yet. 200 AGL, the crosswind eased, then punched again, a mean little double tap. Alex fed them the timing. Wait, kick straight, now. Brooks pressed right rudder, neutralized aileron, and the nose snapped to centerline clean. Flare, now. He eased the yoke, not greedy, just enough to arrest the sink without floating. Hold. Hold. Don't add. Main gear met concrete with a solid, honest thump. Tires barked, smoke feathered out behind, and the airplane wanted to weathervane left into the wind the way big airplanes do when they're tired and out of tricks. Alex gave him the next inch. Keep the nose straight. Rudder right, steady. Don't saw. Spoilers armed. Lauren, spoilers deployed. Reversers unavailable, no engines. Copy. Brakes then. Smooth pressure. Don't lock. The nose gear set down, the rudder bit harder, and the fuselage settled into a controlled bellow of vibration and noise that meant rolling but yours. Speed numbers came fast. 140, 120, 100, Lauren read. The strip looked shorter by the second because it was. Alex watched the end grow in the glass and refused to blink. Brake, smooth, hold. The left main skipped on a patch and threatened a swerve. Right rudder, now, stop there. Brooks caught it. The jet realigned like a train snapping back onto rails. 80 knots. 65. Becky's voice, a thin thread in the headset. You've got room. End line in 3,000 feet. Alex did the last arithmetic and took the fear out of the sum. 209er, you are making it. Keep the squeeze. Lauren, 50, 40, 35. The brakes got hot, you could feel it in the tremor under speech. Jacob felt it in his teeth and held his breath anyway. The overrun loomed, then stopped looming and simply waited. 25, 20, the aircraft shuddered hard once as the right tire found a seam, then held. 15, 10. Alex gave one more measured line. Ease. Don't lift. Keep it planted. The nose stayed down. The world slowed from scream to roar to a heavy, dragging rush. 5 knots above taxi, Lauren said, disbelief tucked into the discipline. Decelerating. Brooks let out the smallest breath. He didn't cheer. He didn't talk. He stayed on the pedals and kept the nose planted like it was the last promise he had to keep. They rolled to a crawling pace before the old end stripe, stopped short of the scrub by the length of a city bus, and the cockpit went quiet in the way only a machine without power can be quiet. For half a second, there was nothing, no wind, no voices, no numbers. Then the cabin sound punched back in, crying, laughing, prayers exhaled, the broken rhythm of people remembering how to be loud. Sarah's voice cut clean through it. Heads up. Stay seated. We're safe. Wait for instructions. Jacob pressed his palms to his eyes and found them wet, then laughed once because he was still alive enough to notice. Becky and Ethan slid long over the strip and broke left and right, protective arcs above the rescue trucks that were already bouncing toward the stopped jet. Megan's voice carried the calm of closure. 209er, Las Vegas Center copies full stop at Coyote Ridge. Emergency crews at your door in 1 minute. Donovan came in tight behind, pride hidden under procedure. Falcon, report status. Alex finally let her shoulders ease a fraction. Nellis Ops, Falcon. 209er down and stopped, intact. No fire observed. Crews on scene. Will hold until transfer. She looked once at the photo near her glare shield and set her eyes back outside. Noah, good work. He nodded, a small, tired thing that meant more than talking. Inside the cockpit of Flight 209, Brooks set the brake, lifted his hands off the yoke, and let them hover an inch above the panel like he wasn't ready to touch a world without motion. Lauren closed her eyes for a count of 2 and then opened them because there was still work to do. Alex gave them one last line to carry across the next minute. You flew it. You kept your discipline. The rest is just checklist. It was the permission everyone needed to remember how to move. Lauren reached for the emergency shut-off items even though the engines were dead, running the flow because muscle memory lives where shock can't reach. Brooks set the parking brake hard a second time, then said the words out loud so they existed for the record and for himself. Alex held outside, canopy closed, watching the vehicles fan out from the access road, foam tender first, then a pair of med units, then a pickup with field crew, all of it bouncing on the rough concrete like urgency had weight. Sarah had the cabin before the cockpit did. She stood square in the galley, voice clear over the PA even with batteries alone. She told people what they needed to do and, more importantly, what they didn't. No one unbuckled. No one stood to grab a bag. Masks came off when she said, not before. She sent her 2 aft attendants to walk the aisle and made the forward attendant plant by the door to receive the firefighters. Jacob watched the choreography and recognized it for what it was, a plan that had been trained 100 times was now just happening, clean and simple. Becky called the surface picture from a holding arc. Ethan mirrored her on the far side. No visible flame. Light smoke residue only. Trucks at the left forward door. Megan's voice carried the official closure the frequency needed. 209er, emergency services on board. Confirm no fire, unknown injuries. Run your evacuation criteria and advise. Brooks looked at Lauren. She was already counting souls and doors in her head. Evacuation not required, she said, and he agreed, because the airplane was stable, the smoke was gone, and the slide risk on that rough strip was its own hazard. We'll deplane by stairs when stairs arrive, he added. Sarah heard it and adjusted the cabin message without waiting to be told. At Nellis Ops, Donovan kept the larger machine moving. He had range crews calling the county, base med coordinating with Reno Regional, security police pulling perimeter. His tone on the net stayed neutral. It wasn't time for speeches. It was time to stay within lanes and let the people who had just done the hardest thing keep owning it for 5 more minutes. Alex ran her own small checklist, fuel state, temps, radios, time on station. She felt the adrenaline recede in the way you only notice because your hands stop trying to shake. She checked with Noah. You good? He nodded once. Good. It meant he could keep thinking. She kept the F-16 breathing gently on idle and stayed where Flight 209's crew could look left and see the same thing they'd used to stay steady, her jet in the corner of their eye. The firefighters reached the forward galley. A captain leaned in and met Sarah's eyes. She gave him what he needed, smoke yes, heat no, status calm, no obvious trauma, 3 mild hyperventilation cases, 1 elderly passenger lightheaded, 2 kids scared but tracking. He called for a stair unit instead of slides. She repeated the brace instructions she would swap for deplaning instructions when she got the word. Jacob watched her and realized he had stopped shaking. Outside, dust wrapped low around tires and boots. The foam truck staged and stood by, nozzle at the ready, because preparedness doesn't end just because relief arrives. The stair truck came harder than the driver meant and braked short with a lurch that made everyone flinch. No one moved until the firefighter pointed to Sarah. She nodded and took the PA again, voice simple. She told the cabin to stay seated until each row was called. People listened. They moved like they were part of one body that had decided together to do the next right thing. The deplaning took time. That was fine. Time is not the enemy after you win the first fight. Row by row, belts clicked, feet found the aisle, hands found seatbacks, and passengers stepped into the bright desert air with a shape to follow. EMTs sorted quickly, green 4, okay, yellow 4, get looked at, red 4, now. The reds were few. The yellows were mostly blood pressure and fear. The greens were a lot of people who kept saying, thank you, to whoever stood nearest because gratitude needs a place to land. Alex watched the chain move and kept her jet where it belonged until the cabin flushed and the flight deck door opened to the stair. Brooks stood up last. He waited for Lauren to finish the cockpit cleanup, then they stepped out together into noise that sounded like life starting over. He looked up at the F-16 and raised a hand halfway. Alex tipped her chin the slightest bit. It was all the ceremony the moment required. Megan closed the loop. Falcon, 209er deplaning complete. Ground reports no fire, no fuel leak. Medical handling transport. Vegas Center releasing you when you're ready. Donovan slid in on ops. Falcon, you've done your job. Bring it home when able. Becky added the practical addendum. We'll shepherd the ground convoy until they hit the county road. Ethan's copy was the period at the end of the sentence. Sarah was the last cabin crew member off. She did one more sweep because that's what you do, hands in the seatbacks, a look in each overhead, a glance under the final row for anything that mattered. She closed the door behind her and felt the sun like a real thing. Jacob sat on a folding chair by the med unit, water bottle in hand, heart finally slowing. He looked at the strip and realized it was not much. He looked at the people and realized they were everything. Buses rolled up from the county road to move the uninjured to a staging point. A pair of ambulances headed out with the few who needed more than a bottle of water and a chair. Radio chatter thinned, then settled into the hum of logistics that follows drama like an aftertaste. Alex took a last picture with her eyes, the stopped airliner, the trucks, the people, the high arc of the Raptors, and then keyed her mic, center, Falcon is RTB Nellis. Megan gave her a route around the lingering restricted blocks and signed her off with a professional, nice work. Alex answered with a neutral, copy, because compliments are not checklists. The transit back was quiet. Noah called out the standard items because standards are what you return to when the extraordinary is over. Nellis Tower cleared them in. The landing was firm and honest. They taxied to the line, parked, and the engine rundown felt louder than it ever does after a training sortie. When Alex cracked the canopy, the base air felt cooler than the desert had a right to be. Debrief didn't wait for later. Donovan met them at the foot of the ladder with a nod that wasn't a smile and wasn't not one. In the ops room, maps came out, tapes were cued, and the clock on the wall went on ignoring everything. Becky and Ethan walked in still smelling like jet and sun. Megan called in on speaker to cover the control side view. Lauren and Brooks patched in from the ground unit with voices that had found their regular pitch again. They walked the timeline, not for applause but for lessons. Where the mayday stepped on itself. Where the winds changed early. Where the rotor lived. Where the crosswind double-tapped. What they'd brief their younger pilots next week. What checklist lines mattered more than they sound like when you hear them for the 100th time. They logged it all. They didn't dramatize. They didn't diminish. By late afternoon, the last bus pulled into Reno Regional and the last passenger stepped through triage. The news was already out there, but it would wait. The only story that mattered now lived in the way people sat on cots and realized their legs were steady again. Sarah took a chair by the wall and finally let herself lean back. Jacob found her and said, "Thank you, the way you say a name." She nodded once. That was enough. At Nellis, the ops room emptied by degrees. Donovan stood by the door and gave Alex the only line he had that wasn't procedural. "You kept it simple when it got loud." She said, "We all did our jobs, because that's also true." Outside, the sun went low over the ranges and put a long line of light across the ramp. Alex walked the length of her jet again, fingertips on the skin, not counting now, just acknowledging. Routine would be there tomorrow. Today, it had held long enough to let everyone write a different ending. The base went quiet the way places do after hard work is done, not silent, just settled. Alex filed her paperwork without ceremony, signed the lines that needed ink, and gave operations the clean facts, time, locations, calls made, outcomes. Donovan took the folder and set it on a stack that already looked like a brief for a training bulletin. "We'll build the sim from this," he said. She nodded. That was the point. By morning, Reno Regional reported everyone accounted for. The few who rode ambulances were stable and talking. Sarah checked in with her crew and sent a short message up the company chain: no evacuation slide injuries, controlled deplaning, cabin calm. Brooks and Lauren sat through a company safety call and then a union rep call, repeating the same timeline with the same even cadence they had fought to keep in the air. Facts first, lessons next. That was their job now. Vegas Center routed traffic around a temporary block near Coyote Ridge while county trucks cleaned rubber and checked the concrete. Megan took an hour between shifts to record a debrief for controller training, how she split the sector, which calls she prioritized, where frequency overlap nearly masked the first mayday. She didn't tell a story. She showed steps. The recording would become reference material within a week. Back at Nellis, Donovan ran a formal hot wash. Becky and Ethan drew the approach on a whiteboard and marked the wind shears they saw. Noah laid out gates and speeds that lined up with the tape. Alex stood with a marker in hand and put a box around 3 items: hold the scan, use rudder first, don't fix drift too early. These 3 lines are where crews will reach for too much, she said. Build drills that make them wait. Donovan wrote it into the tasking. The group agreed without argument. 2 days later, a bus from Reno brought a small group of passengers to base to say thank you the way civilians do, with too many cookies and a banner someone painted quickly. It wasn't an official event. It didn't need to be. Jacob was there, feeling silly about the banner until he saw who came out to meet them. Alex didn't make a speech. She shook hands, listened, and kept it short. He told her he had watched her jet through the window and used it to keep his breathing even. She said, "You did your part, because that was the truth that mattered." Awards talk started because these systems have lanes, too. Donovan filed the paperwork he had to file. Alex let it move without feeding it. She showed up for the ceremony when it came, put on the uniform that fit the day, stood in a line, and received a medal that meant the Air Force would put a paragraph next to her name in a database. Brooks and Lauren stood in front with their company pins and tight smiles that said they still heard cabin noise in their sleep. Megan dialed in on a big screen and spoke for the controllers. Becky and Ethan stayed to the side until someone pulled them forward. Sarah watched from the back row with her crew in civilian clothes because their airline insisted on it. No one made a long speech. That helped. The news cycle did what news cycles do. Clips ran of rescue trucks by a narrow strip. Reporters used the word miracle, which made everyone who had worked the problem roll their eyes in private. It wasn't a miracle. It was people doing their jobs at the edge of the envelope and not making it about themselves. The only part that felt big was the number, 236 people home for dinner who might not have been. That number stuck. Within a week, the squadron turned the event into training. Younger pilots flew the profile in the sim with the gust front timed where Ethan had called it and the double-tap crosswind loaded at 200 feet. They practiced not fixing drift early. They practiced using rudder before aileron to stop the skid. They practiced not letting speed sag while the gear came down. They learned to make one move and then stop. In another room, controllers ran through stepped-on maydays with a trainer injecting noise at the worst second. At the airline, Brooks and Lauren recorded a session for recurrent training, what to say out loud when it gets loud, who calls rates, who watches speed, and why you don't chase every light when the airplane is still flying. Alex returned to her schedule. Sorties, brief, fly, debrief. She walked the line the same way she always had, hand on the jet skin, counting fasteners because routine is how you build the mind you need when routine breaks. She and Noah took a new pair of LTs through formation work and then sat them down to talk decision pacing. You don't have to see the whole landing, she told them. You need to see the next 10 seconds and not lie to yourself about the numbers. One evening, after flights and paperwork, Alex stopped by the small office where the training team was cutting the new lesson. On the screen, a map showed a dotted line to Coyote Ridge. The caption under a still frame read, "Hold the crab. Kick late." She pointed at a bullet and asked them to add one line, "Use the voice you want to hear." They added it without comment. She left it there. Weeks turned into a month. The airliner came off the desert in pieces and rode lowboy trailers to a hangar where investigators would measure and test. People with clipboards would decide which parts failed and which parts did not. Those answers were important for the right reasons and would come when they came. In the meantime, crews flew, controllers controlled, medics trained, and a set of steps moved from memory into muscle for more people than before. On a clear morning not unlike the one that started it all, Alex taxied past the spot where the Raptors had staged on the day. Becky flashed a quick two-finger salute from her jet as they passed on the parallel taxiway. Ethan's helmet turned just enough to catch the light. Noah said nothing and didn't need to. The tower cleared them, and the F-16 lifted clean off the runway. The desert spread out the way it always does, flat where it is flat, sharp where it is sharp. Alex built her scan. The radios were calm. Somewhere hundreds of miles away, an airliner leveled at crews and a flight attendant poured coffee. Somewhere, a controller took a deep breath before keying up for a busy push. Somewhere, a new pilot reviewed a checklist line and said it out loud so it had weight. At Reno Regional, a small group gathered for a quiet reunion the airline had set up. Passengers met again without turbulence. There were hugs where there had been white knuckles. Sarah stood by the doorway and watched people laugh because they could. Jacob shook hands with Brooks and Lauren and tried to say something that wasn't a cliché. He settled on, "Thank you," again and let it be enough. They told him the same thing Alex had told him at the base, "You did your part." Before Alex left for another sortie, Donovan stopped by her desk. He didn't bring a folder this time. "You know what's stuck in the tapes?" he asked. She waited. "You never rushed a sentence," he said. "You made room for other people to do their jobs." She nodded once. That was the only compliment that felt useful. The story moved where stories move, into training slides, into hangar talk, into a page of procedure that will sit quiet for years until someone needs it at 3 in the afternoon on a normal day that becomes something else. If people remember a call sign, fine. If they remember a set of steps, better. If they remember to keep their hands light and their voice steady when the wind double taps, best of all. On the ramp at Nellis, the sun edged toward the mountains and put a straight line of light across aluminum. Alex walked back to her jet after debrief and paused the way she sometimes did, not for a photo or a thought she needed to say out loud, just to mark that the work is real and it matters. She touched the leading edge once, checked nothing, and headed inside. Tomorrow would bring another brief and another flight. The routine would be there. And if it ever had to be broken again, there was a better plan for how to hold the line until everyone could write a different ending.